Alternative formats for this presentation can be found on the Financial Services website. Visit or contact us at the Financial Services training page. Email us at finance.training@queensu.ca or give us a call at 613-533-2050. Accounts Receivable, Preparing and Processing Queen's Invoices. This video tutorial will guide you through the basic steps in preparing an invoice and recording the related accounts receivable journal entry. Let's begin with an accounts receivable overview. Who should issue an invoice? When should an invoice be issued? And what invoices should be issued? Invoices should be prepared and issued by the business unit or department that is providing the goods or services. An invoice should be prepared and issued when goods have been delivered or when services have been provided. Invoices should only be issued to external customers. For transactions relating to an internal sale or cost recovery, please review the Revenue and Cost Recoveries training resources on the Financial Services training page. The Queen's Accounts Receivable, or AR process, includes the following steps. The department prepares and issues the invoice and processes the related journal entry as outlined in this tutorial. Financial Services receives all payments and applies them to outstanding invoices using a journal entry that will credit the outstanding accounts receivable balance. The department can track outstanding invoices using the Open Item Report in PeopleSoft Finance. Instructions on how to access this role will be given at the end of this tutorial. Since the department has a business relationship with the customer and knowledge of the invoice details, the responsibility to collect outstanding invoices from the customer lies with the department and not Financial Services. The Queen's Invoice template is a legal business document. As such, it is important to complete the invoice in a professional manner. The manner in which the invoice is prepared can greatly impact on the ability to collect the account. The originator will send duplicate copies to the customer's copy, or the original, and a remittance copy. If emailing the invoice, please instruct the customer to send a copy of the invoice with the payment. The originator will retain a copy of the invoice in the department files for future reference. Financial Services does not require a copy of the invoice. The customer will remit payment to Queen's University and forward the check along with the remittance copy directly to Financial Services. To access the Queen's Invoice template, visit the Financial Services Forms page. To ensure all invoices can be easily tracked back to the originating department, a standard invoice number format is used when billing external customers. The standard invoice number has 12 digits along with 2 dashes. The first 5 digits identify the department ID. The next 2 digits identify the initials of the person preparing the invoice. The last 5 digits represent the next sequential invoice number assigned by the originator. The first invoice issue would be 00001. The second invoice would be 00002, and so on. For example, when John Smith from Event Services, Department 18101, prepares his first invoice, the invoice number will be 181-JS-00001. To avoid issuing duplicate invoice numbers to customers, when a department has more than one person issuing invoices and 2 or more individuals have the same initials, the department's lead financial officer will be responsible for assigning a unique 2-digit initial identifier to each individual. Other fields to be completed on the invoice will include the date the invoice is prepared, the reference number, the number representing the purchase order or the Queen's quote number, if either is applicable. If either of these 2 reference numbers are not applicable, this field can be left blank. The terms, when payments are due. The default is set at due upon receipt, but can be changed to net 30 days if immediate payment is not required. The currency in which payment is due. The default is set to read Canadian dollars. If invoicing in a currency other than Canadian dollars, the journal entry will be recorded at the Canadian dollar equivalent using the exchange rate in effect on the invoice date. If you are invoicing in another currency, please contact Financial Services to address any questions you may have with regards to processing the recording journal entry. The tax rate, when completing this field, use the tax rate applicable to the items sold. If you are unsure of what tax rate would apply to a particular sale, review guidance documentation located on the Financial Services website. If it is still unclear what tax rate would be applied, please contact Financial Services. The tax rate field is multiplied by the pre-tax invoice amount, and this amount will show in the HST field. When billing for goods or services delivered outside of Ontario and a tax rate other than HST is to be applied, such as GST or PST, applicable in some Canadian provinces, please change the field that says HST to the name of the correct tax being applied. If you have questions on how to present taxes appropriately on the invoice, please contact Financial Services. In the description section of the invoice, there should be sufficient detail such that the customer can easily identify the purpose of the invoice. The customer receives the information details that they require. This may include the dates for which services were provided, the dates goods were delivered, product information, or any other relevant information. The described items or services agree to the customer purchase order or work order. If applicable, ensure that the customer's authorization for any changes to the original work order are referenced. Whenever a quote has been provided, the charges should reference the selling department's final quote that was communicated to the customer. When applicable, the quantity and unit price fields should be completed to support the calculated amount. Let's look at an example. Suppose Queen's Event Services rents conference space to the Downtown Kingston's Business Association. Looking at our sample invoice, the following information has been completed by the originator, in this case, Suzanne Adams, beginning with the top left section of the invoice. The billing department is Event Services. The departmental contact name is Suzanne Adams. Ms. Adams includes her email address and telephone number. Just below this section, in the Bill To section, the customer's name and contact information is entered. In this case, the Downtown Kingston Business Association, in care of Kyle Wood. The business address and telephone number and Mr. Wood's email address is included. In the top right section, the date, the 12-digit invoice number, the reference number, the terms, and the currency are all completed by Ms. Adams. Looking at the bottom section of the invoice, in the description section, the fields for quantity, unit price, and amount are completed. The description reveals the sale is for the rental of conference space for the period June 11th to 13th. 3 days at $388 per day for a subtotal amount before taxes of $1,164. Ms. Adams entered the tax rate as 13%, which populated the tax amount and adjusted the total invoice to be $1,315.52. Note, when the services delivered are in multiple provinces and/or countries, please contact Financial Services to discuss how to correctly reflect the tax amounts on the invoice. Every invoice requires a supporting journal entry to record the sale. The journal entry to support the invoice should be recorded in the same month the invoice is issued. Departments are responsible to record these entries using the online journal entry system. Using our Downtown Business Association example, the journal entry to support the sample invoice would look like this. On line 1, debit account 120119, the accounts receivable external sales account with the total invoice amount. In the Open Item Key field, indicate the 12-digit standard invoice number. Be sure to include the dashes, and enter the journal line description beginning with the customer name, followed by a brief description of the sale. This format will enable the department to sort the AR Open Item Report by vendor. When the entry is research-related, be sure to enter the project ID in the project field. On line 2, credit the appropriate revenue account with the subtotal amount on the invoice. This represents the pre-tax amount billed to the customer. Note, when a department uses a class or program ID as part of the chart field string, these IDs need only to appear on this line, the line that is posting to the revenue account. The class and/or program ID would not be entered on the AR or tax lines. When the billing is related to a research project, be sure to enter the project ID in the project field. Research-related activity requires the project ID to be entered on both the AR line and the revenue line, in this case, lines 1 and 2. On line 3, credit the appropriate HST, GST, or PST account. For example, when HST is charged and collected, the account is 210080. In cases where a customer does not receive the goods or services ordered, or an invoice was issued in error, a credit note is issued to credit an amount billed on a previous invoice. To prepare the credit note, use the Queen's Credit Note template. Do not use the original related invoice number when issuing a credit note. The credit note should have its own unique invoice number. However, it should be noted there is a specific box in the top right-hand corner of the credit note template where you will reference the original invoice number. The dollar amount appearing on the credit note should be a negative number. The invoice description should clearly identify what the credit note is for, followed by a description of the goods and services. This section should also reference the related original invoice number. For example, the credit note being issued in relation to our previous sample invoice might read, Credit note for June 11th, space rental billed on invoice 18101-SA-00001. It's important to have control over the issuance of credit notes. To access the Queen's Credit Note template, visit the Financial Services Forms page. Recording credit notes by way of a journal entry works the same way as recording the original invoice. All of the same chart field strings are used. The only difference will be the entry to the receivable account line item will be a credit rather than a debit. The entry posted to the revenue and tax line will be debits instead of credits. Using our Downtown Business Association example, the journal entry to support the sample invoice would look like this. On line 1, credit account 120119, the AR external sales account, with the total credit note amount. In the open item key field, indicate the 12-digit standard invoice number. Be sure to include the dashes and enter the journal line description beginning with the customer name, followed by a brief description of the sale. Using this format will enable the department to support the AR open report by vendor. When the entry is research related, be sure to enter the project ID in the project field. On line 2, debit the appropriate revenue account with the subtotal amount on the credit note. This represents the pre-tax amount billed to the customer. Note, when a department uses a class or program ID as part of the chart field string, these IDs only need to appear on this line, the line that is posting to the revenue account. The class and/or program ID would not be entered on the AR or tax lines. When the billing is related to a research project, be sure to enter the project ID in the project field. Research-related activity requires the project ID to be entered on both the AR line and the revenue line, in this case, lines 1 and 2. On line 3, debit the appropriate HST, GST, or PST account. For example, when HST is charged and collected, the account is 210080. If you do not already have access to the online journal entry system, complete a Financial Systems Security Access Request form. Be sure to select the journal entry role. To access the form, visit the Financial Services Forms page. For journal entry training, visit the Financial Services Training page. Now that you have issued an invoice and processed the related journal entry, you will track the outstanding invoice payments by running the Open Item Report in the PeopleSoft Finance system. To do this, you will log into My Queen's U Solos portal from the Queen's homepage. Click on the Applications tab. Click the Finance link under the PeopleSoft Resources. Navigate to General Ledger, Open Items, AR Open Item Report. Create a run control. You will only need to create a run control once. To do this, click Add a New Value tab. Enter the name you want to call your run control. For example, AR Open Item. Consider this one word with no spaces. Click the Add button. Now for all future reports, you will only need to select the Search button, use the existing run control, and run your report. Your next step will be to run the report. First, you will enter the desired information fields. The report can be run by Open Item Key, Department ID, or by Project ID or range. The report will show all outstanding receivables as at the as of date indicated. How may we help you today? If you have questions relating to the accounts receivable process, email us at accounts.receivable@queensu.ca or give us a call at 613-533-2050. We are located at 207 Stewart Street, 3rd floor, Rideau Building. Hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. This concludes our tutorial. To learn more or to review additional training resources and video tutorials, visit the Financial Services Training page.